Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing and making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, lead level designer, Max Pers. But not just me, we've got an incredible guest with us here who, when he puts pen to paper, makes you care about these characters, revolutionizes a storm. We've got the incredible lead narrative designer, Tom S. Hughes.
What an intro! What an intro! Amazing.
I try
That's
and make everyone feel good about it,
yeah. I
mate.
was going to say, wow, that's
Yeah.
bigging me up there.
Well, mate, it's great to have you. As we said just before we recorded, like Tom and I have kind of known of each other, but we keep missing each other. Really, it's just
Hmm.
brief interactions. So I'm glad that we get finally a chance to sit down together, mate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great to be here. Like, thank you for having me. It's yeah, it's gonna be really fun to
Yeah,
chat.
no, mate. So I mean, as I said, you're now a lead. How long have you been a lead for? It's one of your recent positions now, mate. Hey everyone, I just want to give a huge shout to hopefully have you vote for me for the Game Dev Heroes. What we do around seems to be more focused on that of the UK, but focusing on celebrating those who contribute so much to our incredible industry. And it seems cheesy, I know, but I would really love for all of you, if you can, to take the time and vote for me for that of your game dev hero. Now, I will send a link to this and have it down in the description below. But in terms of things that need to be filled out, along with your names and my name for your nomination name, which would be Max Pears, category design, my email is leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. My role is lead level designer, and the studio workout is People Can Fly. If you wouldn't mind giving back for me, giving to all of this incredible industry that I have for over the years, I would genuinely really appreciate this, as I would love to be part of this incredible ceremony with the Game Dev Heroes. Many of you know I've been doing the podcast now for I think 7 years, around there, crazy to think, along with sharing all of my talks out there for you to see, with books about that of exploration, traversal and combat, and most recently that of the level design kit as well. So if you wouldn't mind taking the time to vote for me and nominate me in the Game Dev Heroes 2025 nomination, I would sincerely appreciate that.
So yeah, I've been lead narrative designer here at Great Ape Games for coming up 2 years in April. So like, wow, 2 years! Oh my god, it's weird how time flies with that stuff.
Yeah.
Before that, I was lead designer at Supermassive
Mm.
Games as well. So. But that was more of a game design position rather than a narrative design. So yeah, in those 2 years, I've recently transitioned over into more narrative stuff.
Nice, man. And I was going to say then, mate, because that's it is a different switch of positions. How did you
Hmm.
find transitioning over to that?
Um, well, first off, I realised that this is the position I wanted to do, which was really nice.
Good.
I realised I've always been interested in narrative in
Mm,
games and
mm.
a big fan of narrative games across the board.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to do something similar, or work in something similar, and I've done things, from game design, level design, all the way through.
Yeah.
So kind of had the brief, the broad spectrum of all the different facets of design. But yeah, no, it was something that when I started doing it, just felt right that I was doing it. And luckily, working at Supermassive,
Mm,
game designers there are much more narrative and
yeah.
kind of cinematic focused. So that was something
Right.
that really helped with the transition to move over. But it's funny actually. What I realized the moment I realized that I wanted to do narrative design was when I was chatting to some of the writers at
Mm,
Supermassive, fantastic writers over there, and I found myself as the lead game designer. I was more interested in, wait a minute, why is this? It doesn't make sense that this character's doing this. It doesn't make sense
mm.
that they're saying this. And then they were saying, shouldn't you be like worried about like the mechanics and stuff? And I was like, no, don't worry about that. Someone else will do that.
Yeah.
And I had this moment of, oh wait, maybe I should move.
They're just trying to kick you out at that point, like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, I've got time, guys. Don't
No,
worry
don't
about
worry. I'll book this meeting room for a while. We can stay here. We can
it.
chat about
Five
the
hours. I
characters.
hope you're
Yeah,
all
yeah,
free. So,
yeah, yeah.
take it back to the beginning then for you in terms of
Mm.
like, well, what inspired you to get into games, right? Obviously, you've got into leadership position now. You've done it previously on game design. You've now switched to that of narrative. Like, how did it all inspire you to get into the industry?
I always say this when people ask.
Mm.
It was a specific game. I remember it. It was the Elder Scrolls Oblivion that actually got me
Mm,
into it, which is
right.
so weird. Because I loved that game when I was younger, when I was playing that,
Yeah.
and it was the first game that I actually went out of my way to watch the behind the scenes and
Oh
the
wow.
interviews with people because I was just really interested in
Yeah.
like some of the stories and watching Todd Howard talk about like how the game was made and things like that. So, and that was when I was like, I don't know, 13, 14, something like that. And
Mm.
then since then, I heard usually in games that I loved, I would go and I would watch all of the interviews with the developers and things like that, just to try and sort of learn a bit more about it. Um, and then from there, like I am originally from Manchester, so
Ooh.
yeah,
Interesting.
I know,
Ooh.
I know, I know.
The War of the
Um,
Roses rages on, mate. That's all I'll say.
it does, yeah. No matter what happens, I think we should end this podcast now. I don't think we should
I didn't
carry on.
realize, mate. It's too late. Fuck this. Fuck it.
um, so yeah, I when I was in school, I
Mm.
knew that I really wanted to. I got really lucky in the fact that I knew I wanted to do this
Yeah.
from very early on because a lot of people don't. A lot of people realize, you know, in their 30s that they want to move into something more creative
Yeah.
and it's a bit more difficult, but you can still do it for sure. But I got really lucky in the fact that I kind of knew I wanted to do this. So I went to uni in Manchester at a place called FutureWorks,
Okay.
which is like a specialized college in association with
Amazing.
UCLan. And I got really lucky because I did a game design course on there.
Yeah.
And some of the tutors that the reason why I really wanted to go there is because they always said the tutors that we have are also industry professionals. So everyone that we talked to and was taught by was someone working in the industry at that point.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and what's amazing about it now is that I'm friends with a few of the tutors that we had, and I meet up with them at Develop and GDC and all these other things again. So it's really incredible to see them, and to also work with them
Yeah.
in some, you know, on and off. So yeah, like I joined uni from there, did 3 years of that. During that time, we did, as I said, we kind of the course was really good because it gave you the first year gave you a base knowledge of everything game development, including
Mm.
like everything from game design, level design, narrative, writing, but then also like 3D modeling and animation and stuff like that. So it gave you sort of a base knowledge of each one, which I think really helped in terms of being able to understand the whole process. It really gave me that foundation of like understanding the whole process that a team would go through during development, which I think really aided me later on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, from there, then we graduated, and then the biggest one that we did is excuse me, uh, myself and a couple of friends. We entered a scheme run by the UK Games Fund.
Oh,
It's called
interesting.
Transfuser.
Right.
And what that was is basically it was kind of like an incubation thing where we were given 10 weeks to create a prototype of a game, sort of pitch a game,
Yeah.
make a prototype of it, and then we showcased that at EGX.
Ah,
So
cool, man.
coming straight out of uni into that program, showcasing at EGX when I was like, you know, 20, 21, something like that, was like terrifying. It was an amazing experience. Like we
Sure.
created this fantastic little game called Tome Travelers, and it was like little. We described it as like Gang Beast meets fantasy, and it was like we
Oh,
had like floppy
interesting.
arms,
Yeah.
and like they would have floppy arms, and then like would have swords, and you'd have to like fight each other with it
That's
while
funny.
traveling through a book. Um, but what was amazing about that is we learned a lot about production and about scope in particular. So
Yeah.
we went, oh, 10 weeks. We've got 10 weeks. How about we do 3 levels of this length? Cool, we can do that, can't we? And then what ended up we actually had was one level that was a third of the size that we wanted.
Yeah.
So
Fuck.
we learned a lot about scope
Yeah.
during that time.
It is.
But
It is one of the first and hardest things to do, even like doing personal projects or anything, right? Like
hmm
everyone's like, I've got this epic thing in my mind, and then
yeah,
yeah, it's
whenever anyone's like, oh, I'm doing a personal project. Oh, what are you making? Oh, it's an MMO. No, you're
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
No, you're not. You're
Exactly.
not.
We all want to make an MMO, really deep down.
Yeah,
Tom.
yeah, yeah.
This is the desire.
We all do, but like, come on now. Like, I'm staring at my ideas board up here, and I'm looking at it going like, maybe
Just
not.
a
I need to
single
break these
tear coming
down.
down.
Yeah, I need to break these down a little bit more.
But I mean, like going to EGX, obviously, for those who may not know, EGX is one of, if not the biggest now, I think. I think it recently merged with Comic Con, I believe, last year, I think. But it was.
Yeah,
But
so.
it is the biggest one. I'd definitely say in the UK in terms of game festivals. It's been going on for over a decade, primarily in London, Birmingham. I know they went to Leeds one year as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, to be able to do that straight out of uni,
Yeah.
and obviously I'm sure you saw tons of people coming in and out. Yeah,
We had to. They had to change the rules of Transfuser when they were showcasing because of us. Because so the reason why is because when we were showcasing, they said you can bring all your own equipment, and we brought a giant TV and giant speakers, and it drowned everyone else out. So we had a lot of people come up to us, and then since that the year after that, they standardized it and went, you have to have this kind of equipment and headphones.
That's funny. I mean, hey,
So
it's all about getting
we were
attention.
selling the game. We were getting it out there.
That's mate. That is the biggest challenge. I think I went to EGX. God, it must have been 2015, and like you could see the difference, right? Like this was all just the indie section.
Yeah.
Some people just had like stands next to with like a high res picture of the game. Other people had like inflatable tentacles and stuff. And it is, as you say, it's like you're trying to get the attention of
That's what
everyone
it is. Yeah, that's what it is.
to you. So you did the right
It's
thing.
also very difficult when you're hungover. Like two of the days there, it was.
Well, I mean,
because you've got to go to the industry parties and network. You know how that works.
that's it, kids. You can't network unless there's alcohol. So it's
Only if you're over 18, kids.
Yeah, yeah. We waited till we were 18, so don't want to say
Yes.
otherwise.
Yes, exactly.
English are well known for respecting alcohol and treating others with respect. So
True, exactly. Yeah. Yes, we're very good at that.
So what happened after that then, mate? So this comes out.
Essentially what we did at EGX as well was part of that was actually to pitch the game itself to the UK Games Fund in order to try and get funding. We did that and we won. We won funding for the studio. We won £10,000, which was amazing.
Yeah, man.
And then you soon realise that £10,000 in developing a game is literally nothing. So after you pay everyone a reasonable wage and you buy any licenses or equipment and things like that, it's gone. So we very quickly went, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to stay afloat somehow. So after a few months of prototyping the game, we all sat down and we went, all right, well, what can we do? At this point, we had a lot of contacts in the industry, even for just coming into the industry. Again, going back to our tutors actually being people in the industry. So we met up with a lot of like fantastic people at Develop, and then there we started basically pitching ourselves as a co-dev, as a smaller co-dev team. So we wanted to transition into work for hire just to keep things afloat while we sort of prototype the game in the background. So we got really lucky in that I did some work with John Turle, who owns Flix Interactive.
Right.
He's fantastic, and we worked with them on some of their stuff. So that was really cool. Also, Des Gale as well. We worked with him for a little bit on some of the prototype stuff. These names might not mean anything to some people, but like some of these are like UK great like UK developers. So we worked with them, and we managed to keep the business going through this for about another year. And we just had this realization of, right, like, what are we actually learning by doing this? Like, actually learning about the industry and about what we want to do. Because I was like thrust into sort of a seat, like a creative director position immediately. And if I'm being totally honest, I was not prepared for it at all. So I didn't know anything about running a team. I didn't know anything about running a business. Like, we managed to somehow avoid, getting taxes wrong and things like that. We managed to somehow pay HMRC, so we're okay. But like, only just. And we all sort of sat down, all three of us. I worked with a fantastic producer called Kiva Roddy, who's currently Chucklefish, I believe. I
Okay,
think,
yeah.
yeah.
Chucklefish
And
made they up in Scotland made a horror game.
no, they're based in London. They did Wild Frost and
Ah, there we go. Yes.
yeah, they recently released some new stuff, but I can't think off the top of my head. And then a fantastic artist called Will Hobden, who is
Oh,
now a freelance artist.
right.
So we basically all sat down and we went, right, I think we should dissolve the company and go our separate ways amicably. And every single one of them went, I want to say this exact same thing. So it was perfectly timed. We all went, we want
Yeah,
to go out, we want to get a job somewhere else, we want to learn, and then maybe we'll come back.
that's it.
Spoilers, we never went back. Because we all had the realization of maybe it's not what we want to do. Maybe, I always say this to people, maybe in another 5-10 years I might make my own thing again. We might come back to it, we might do other stuff. But right now I'm just really enjoying what I'm doing here. So yeah, from there, then we all sort of went our separate ways. We dissolved the studio, and then I went to work. I got recommended for a job at Supermassive Games down in Guildford. So then I joined them.
Because you were there for quite some time, right? With Supermassive.
Yeah, I was there for 4 years.
Yeah, man. So, and again,
So
Supermassive, like, they make very different but really cool stuff. And I remember when what was the first game came out? Recently it was remade.
Until Dawn.
Mate, what a game! What a
Yeah.
game! Honestly, and
Yeah.
like me and my missus a couple of years ago played The Quarry when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed that. I thought it was great. So
Yeah.
again, just it's something different, which is something I really
Yeah.
appreciate in the endless stream of hero shooters. It's great to see.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
create.
something very different.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what drew me to them in the first place. It was clearly that undertone of like storytelling, which I loved so much, and then I'm a big fan of cinematic stuff as well. So it kind of like plus it was a recommendation from a friend of mine, Dan Saxon, and so I was like, yeah, go on then. I'll see what happens. And then I stayed there 4 years. Yeah, and it was in that time. Yeah, we released some fantastic games. First one I worked on was Little Hope, which we really, really liked. Yeah, working on that was really fun. Managed to get to some of the mocap shoots for that and learn about that process and about and then just there's so much that we learned, like just about game development in general. And also the biggest thing was just how to work properly in a team, how to have proper communication, how to keep communication open, what to do and also what not to do as well, because we had a lot of things where stuff didn't work, which is fine, that happens, but it's just about how you approach that and how you sort of learn from that. But yeah, I couldn't ask for the better studio to go to. And then I got to a point where we were working on, I became lead designer in, I can't remember the year, but I did it for about a year and a half before I moved. I was working on, has that been announced? Yeah, it has been announced. Directive 8020 that's coming out.
Okay.
It's coming out this year, I believe. Should be, hopefully. So I was working as lead designer on that for a while, and that was incredible. Like to do that, to work directly with like actors. This is what I realized working on that stuff. I always tried to position myself in positions of writing and directing actors and that kind of thing, because that's the stuff that really resonated with me. And luckily, I managed to do a lot of that. We went on shoots with some of the voice actors. And then,
where do you mocap and record that? Is that London, or do you fly off to LA for that?
So it used to be LA, and then when I was doing it, they went, "Oh, we're doing it in London now," and I was like, "Oh, okay, yay!" Some of the other ones, they went to all of the other ones, they went up to Canada for it. So I was like, "Oh yeah, we might do that." And then we're like, "No, we're changing it this year. We're going to do London." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
There's you in your shorts and your tank top and bucket hat, ready to go.
Yeah, I was so ready.
There's the train, mate. Oh, for fuck's sake!
Where are we going? It's like we're going to Soho. What?
but LA.
But what about LA? No, but working with some of the guys at in I think it was Soho Voices that helped us with that stuff. They're a great studio in London, and yeah, it was really fun doing that. And then we did a lot of work on the mocap studio. We worked at a big motion capture studio called Centroid, which is it's like a massive warehouse in Pinewood. They had one in Pinewood. So Pinewood Studios.
Right. Yes. Yep.
So that was amazing doing that, and then helping out the performance director with that stuff. And it was totally just a moment of like this is it. This is what I want to do. I absolutely love working with these actors. I love seeing the words that we have written come to life, and then see it be spoken, and then be like, oh God, that's written really badly. Let's rewrite that quickly because it sounds awful coming out of someone's mouth.
Instead of a traditional sponsor, what I'm offering now is that of joining the mailing list. Social media is constantly changing all the time, as we're seeing some people are leaving Twitter, others are choosing to remain, BlueSky, Threads, all of this. So it's really hard to reach out to all of you incredible aspiring and current game devs. So what I'm offering here is that of a emailing list. So if you want to be kept up to date with all of the great level design news, as well as get your free guide, which is my 10 tips towards better level design, then please join the mailing list. You'll be making sure to get 3 emails a week with me sharing that of different resources, ideas, as well as what I've learned through my career and some Q&As. So if you're constantly looking to improve level design and instead trying to figure out where all this information may be, then look no further than the mailing list. Check down in the description below to join now and get that of your 10 tips to improve your level design. So you've gone the completely opposite, mate, because I'm about to expose myself, but not a huge fan of actors, I won't lie, and it's a funny thing to say in this creative space, but you'll have to forgive me on some of them are way up their own arses and think that they bring more to the games than what many devs do.
To be fair, actually, there are a few like that. Like we, like not naming names, but we have experience with people like that, and it is. Like you say, it can be like that sometimes. We got really lucky in our one.
Yeah. Oh, mate, there's some great people out there. It's not all actors are like this.
We got some fantastic ones to work with, and actually, what I found was the people doing because what Supermassive would do sometimes is we would film face and body separately, with 2 different actors, which is an industry like standard. It happens across the industry, because performance capture, which is the full face and body, can be very, very expensive.
Oh, dude! And also, then when you put the regulations on top of that, the amount your time window is really tiny.
You have to get that right.
Yes.
Like if you don't get like the shoots we had a fantastic producer called Stu Haskane, who was cinematics producer at Supermassive, and he ran a tight ship. Like he was the loveliest guy ever, but he ran a tight ship.
Right.
There would be times where I would go into sort of like what I call like the artistic director mode, where it'd be like, yeah, but what's the character feeling at this point? Like, what do we do? And Stu would be like, come on, like we need
we're
to get
feeling
moving.
Time pressure is what we're feeling.
Yeah. How about we carry on? Yeah, how about we hurry up? And I was like, oh yeah, okay.
It's an interesting thing for those who may not be aware. Obviously, there's been recent news, especially over last year, about Saga, and a lot of actors are involved in that. But basically, what it means is you get X amount of hours with these actors. It's not a solid 8-hour day that you would have at a work. It's roughly, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, it's roughly around 4 to 5 hours at most, depending on the lines, because if people are projecting a lot or screaming, then it comes down, because again, that is their quote-unquote instrument. So you don't get, as Tom's saying, with production, you don't get a whole range per se, or as long as you'd like, so you have to be effective when recording these things. So
it's a real reality check when you do that, but when you also, it's when you see things like laid out in a spreadsheet by a producer, and they go like, we're going to do this section of the script, and I look at that and go, that feels like it would be done in like half an hour. It'd be like, no, that's going to take at least 2.5 hours, something like that. Like, how come? Because, and then they go, well, because think about it this way, we've got to set up that entire stage, like with all of the mocap stuff that you want. Like all of the staging, we've got to run through it, rehearse it several times with them. Like, is it a very action-heavy scene? Is it a more of an emotional scene? Like, you're going to want to get it right. Like, emotional scenes, for example, you think about some of those scenes from, like, The Last of Us, or God of War, and all these, like, really emotional moments. And you see the behind-the-scenes stuff on that. You see the directors, like, going through it several times because you need to get that right. And that costs time. You've got to factor that into the production schedule. Otherwise, you're just going to go over budget. And like, some of the bigger studios will have leeway because they have a lot of money. We were talking about just before we
That's
started
not
about,
us, but
yeah. That's not us, by the way. They will have like a contingency of
for sure.
however long, which you always build in anyway.
Yeah.
But like smaller studios like ourselves, we are going to be on a much tighter budget,
Mm,
and we have to make sure we get that right. So
yeah.
during the process that I'm doing now, we basically have first pass scripts at the moment, and we are going to be looking at those scripts and saying like which are the moments that we want to make sure we get right.
Yeah.
What are the biggest emotional beats that we want to get right? And we need to give extra time for that stuff to cook.
And it's like I said, I may not be the biggest fan of actors, but there is a thing when you're asking someone to go to those emotional places. I do respect it.
Good to know you won't be biased if if anything.
Mate, I take it.
If we end up working together, I know I'm not taking you on set. That's all.
I honestly think you probably it'd be better to take me on set, so there's less shit going on. But
that side of acting and that side of that, I mean, that industry and also our industry as well, where there is kind of like a cliqueiness to it, where it's like
sure.
if you're not in it, then you're out of it. And like to me, when I'm working with them on stage, I will always like. I want the utmost respect from them for the rest of the team. That's for everyone there. The lighters, the runners, the people working. Like, we are all on the same level. It doesn't matter. We're all here to do a job. And what's great is that the actors I have worked with have been fantastic for that. Like, they've been incredible. There was an amazing moment that I remember with one of the actors. It was called Kel, I believe his name was.
Right.
And I basically said, like, I said to Stu, how much can we throw Kel around? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, how much is he willing to do physically for like this? And I sound like I'm going like a Kubrick, like I'm trying to break this person. I'm not. But what I was actually saying was there's this
eyes wide shut over and over and over.
There's this big scene at the end of one of the games, and where they basically jump out of somewhere like quite high up. And I was like, how do we actually show that? Like, because mocap very difficult to do that.
Health, safety.
So I said, yeah, we wanted to follow health and safety properly. We had these guys called Lucky 13 who were there as well, who were stunt coordinators, and they are like some of the best stunt coordinators. They would go through like these fight scenes and everything. So I said to them, I was like, how high can we go with this? And he was like, we can go pretty high if Kel is like up for it. So I was talking to him, and he was like, his eyes lit up. He was like, I can't wait to do this.
Yeah.
And I've got it on my phone saved, and it is the video. Obviously, it's heavily NDA. I can't release it until the game's released and stuff like that. But it's this amazing footage of him jumping off this giant. It was like, and he finished. And I made the joke of, should we do another one then? And he was like, yep, let's go. And I was like, no, it's fine. We got it.
No, look, man, there are some amazing ones. And I think the experience in mocap, as you're saying, it is a really interesting part. Like when I was contracting at Ninja Theory, because as you said, right, you're normally going over to these big studios. For those you may not know, Sony Santa Monica, their place of work is a giant complex, and they have like state-of-the-art mocap, which a lot of the Sony studios will use to go through. But in Ninja, which their HQ is an old pub, they actually have built a mini mocap, and it's amazing. Like for animations, we got to just jump in the suits, get in and go.
Yep.
The new tech with it, the fact that you can like have a camera which shows what's actually in the Unreal scene while you're going through displaying with the character there is incredible. So it is a giant play gym in a sense, and as you said, can produce some amazing moments.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought it up with like you guys just jumping in the suits. We've done the same thing as well. Like some of these newer XN suits, I think there was ones that we used.
XN. They're amazing.
And yeah, they're really, really good. And we it means teams who are on a budget or a smaller team can just get one of these, or even rent one of these. Like sometimes they do that stuff, and just make amazing animations. If you want to, a walk cycle or something like that, you could go out into your garden and do that walk.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, cool, we'll get an animator to polish that up and do it properly. And you've got a walk cycle there. It's like you don't have to. There's no way. These days, everything's a lot more accessible for people to actually get into and play around with.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like we did that when COVID, I was just in my apartment. They sent me an XN suit and just walked and got the stuff. So it's
amazing. Some of it, isn't it? They're tight though. I will.
Look,
Having been in one myself.
they're not flattering. No,
No,
no
no.
one comes out looking good. I don't care how good you are.
No, I remember seeing footage of myself in one, and I was like, okay, I need to lose a few pounds here. This is.
Yeah, it can be your best. When I say, well, it's never your best friend, but it's definitely an eye opener. It's like if you're
Yep.
wearing not gis. Fuck, I've forgotten. They're like rash guards for jujitsu and stuff. They are
Mm.
again not flattering at all when you're trying to
Nope.
intimidate.
Nope.
So,
That's the side. That's the side that they don't tell you is
yes,
like of mocap and things like that.
you really
It's,
get to know someone pretty quickly when they turn.
oh
up
yeah,
in mockups.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Everyone's on a set. That's what I mean. Everyone's on a level playing field at this point. It's like I'm stood here, like you're stood there, and you. I can see everything. So okay, let's just.
That's why I always bring an extra sock. But yeah, for some reason, Tom always brings an extra box where he puts his leg up, and I don't get why. It's a power stance, but
It is, yeah. I want to be taller than everyone else.
but despite all of our dicking about and my hatred aside for it, mate, the switch there from game
Yes.
to narrative, and obviously I'm involved in level. You've done other aspects of design. I guess you mentioned that the working with the actors, seeing the story, seeing the words be
Yep.
brought to life is what made you switch. But in terms of the difference, what do you feel is the biggest difference in your day-to-day activities from game design now to narrative?
Yeah, it has been a very big switch, and also, I mean, what I like about this current role that I'm in is it changes depending on the stage of development that we're in.
Yeah.
So we're in full production now. We've just come out of pre-production,
Yeah.
and that I joined when it was like a little bit into pre-production.
Yeah.
But a lot of the role was more sort of actually building the story, and so I work as a lead narrative designer. But because we're a small team, I also do work with writers, and also do some of the writing myself. So we were like building the actual like what we call the spine of the story. Right. This is usually how we kind of work. And
I don't mean to interrupt you, mate. I guess
Yeah.
for some listeners, what is the difference between that of a narrative designer and a writer? You know?
that's a good point. What I would say is it does depend on where you are. Like as I said, I do a little bit of both, but through my eyes, a narrative designer is someone who can come up with, as I said, like the spine of the story,
Right.
but also how it connects to the game design. This is why it really helps having an understanding of both game design, level design, and also other aspects as well, like all the way from programming to audio. It's someone who can sit in the middle and sort of say, like, how do we actually connect this story to the game, so that you don't get the alarm here for the Ludo narrative dissonance alarm. Everyone loves saying this.
Mate, the big words make you sound smart, mate. That's it.
Yeah. But it is true. Like it's an actual thing, and like people say it all the time. It's like it's making sure that what it is that we're doing in the game, like what the player is doing, connects to the character and the world, so that you don't have moments of like why would I be doing this? Like, what am I? Oh, I've got to go save this person from whatever. But like, why am I connected to this? I don't care. As the player, I don't care. So one trick I like to do is have the player have as much information as the character. Yeah. That's something that I really like to do. Because at that point, you're asking the same questions. What I love is moments where, and I've watched streamers with certain games, a streamer or someone playing, doesn't matter, just it comes to my head because it was a streamer.
Yeah.
They were playing, I can't remember what game it was, but it doesn't really matter. But they essentially went like, oh, like, what am I supposed to do here? They said it out loud, and then the character said the exact same thing. And it's that moment where it's like, when the player has the same information as the character, they feel a lot more connected.
Yeah.
So yes, going back to what they do. So versus a writer, obviously again it can depend on that stuff, but the writer is responsible for a lot of the dialogue and some of the barks and things like that. They will also be working with the narrative designer a lot of time to come up with the story and things like that, but their focus is more on the actual like technical aspect of the dialogue. I love working with writers because they understand the story so well.
Yes.
That you can then translate that into narrative design and actually put that stuff in world, like so it makes sense with to the player. It's almost like a translation, like Like it's a translation of one medium to another. This is why I like also working with writers who maybe aren't game writers, who are like working film and TV. I've worked with them before. And because they have no understanding of it, they'll write something that's linear, and your game might have a load of delineations across from that, in terms of like, you might have a cutscene and then it goes into gameplay, but they will just write it as one flow. And it's like, okay, well, what am I doing in this gameplay moment? Because if I'm having a really emotional scene, and then I'm going into a gunfight, and then I'm going back into an emotional scene, feels really weird. Unless you do it right, which I don't know if any narrative designer or writer could get that right, but maybe. We'll see. Yeah. But like, that's the moment, is like, I'll look at it and I'll go, this writing is really good. We just need to figure out how to translate it into narrative design. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I think it's the same as you said. It's taking the writing and translating it into gameplay, and I think that's the best way to phrase it. So having the technical abilities that you have can only just benefit you more with what you're doing, man. So,
yeah, I mean, like I said, like I think part of the reason why I love the position that I'm in, especially being a lead as well, is because we get to work with like all different departments, and I love working with all different departments. And how do we translate that narrative into those other departments? So like level design, for example, like working with level designers is fantastic. Working with game designers is fantastic, because you can, the way I like to work is, we will essentially have like a base. So for an area, for example,
right, yeah,
we will say, what is this area? And then the narrative designers and the writers will go away and they'll come up with what this area is. Maybe it's a warehouse. Okay, cool. Like, what is this warehouse for? Who owns this? What goes in and out of here? What, like, we have to answer all these questions before we get into a meeting with level designers.
Of course.
And so that they have as much context as possible to make the amazing levels that they do. Yeah. And what I found is great is I like going into those meetings a little bit before we've quite finished, so that they can get input on it as well.
Yeah.
So I could go, this warehouse is usually used to transport food to and from, but is also being used by an undercover agents to transport drugs or something like that. Yeah. And then I'll say something like that, and then they'll be like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense, because we did this previously in the level. I was like, okay, cool, then we're going to change this. We're going to do different things. And it's the same with any department, audio, animation. We'll go in and they'll have a completely different lens than me on stuff. And they'll be like, this doesn't work because of X or Y. Yeah. So how can we change that? Because it's very easy for me to go in and change words on a page than it is to go into Unreal and change an entire level layout.
For sure, yeah.
Like, it's very easy for me to go, okay, this is no longer a warehouse. This is an outpost or something like that. We can still keep a lot of the stuff that we were thinking, but now we've changed it to this.
That's it, man. I mean, it's as you said, also, like, you've mentioned a couple of times just how important communication is, because you're working with so many disciplines as well. And I guess, do you have any tips on how to keep the communication so active, and because it's always the first thing to break down, regardless of teams.
Oh yeah, and I've had moments across my career where it's broken down. It's just about understanding like why it's broken down.
Yeah,
I think I read a fantastic book called Tribal Leadership.
Oh yes, I've heard of it.
Which really helped me to sort of like talk with teams and figure out, like, it has like stages of where they're at, like 1 through 5.
Interesting.
I won't go through it all right now, but it's a fantastic book. You guys should. I would recommend people read it if they're interested in any kind of leadership, no matter what discipline or even industry you're in. But that really helped me in understanding like why communication breaks down sometimes.
Yeah.
What I found is actually one of the best things is no judgment. Don't go in there with any assumptions, and also be inquisitive. Like, if you're having a conversation with someone, just be interested in what they're doing, and then that'll unlock every single thing that you want, and then it'll unlock like what the problem is in the discourse. Because usually it's a very simple issue. Like, you can go like, have people being like, I don't want to talk to him because he's done this or that or that. I don't want to I don't want to interrupt it, blah, blah, blah. And then usually it's just because of one little thing. Like, no matter what it is, it's like, oh, well, that's actually not what that is. Actually, it's this thing. It sounds very vague, but it's because I can't come up with a specific example right now. But if you're going in and you're like asking questions about stuff and being inquisitive and genuinely taking interest, and also being open, I think actually one of the biggest things as well as that is not being precious, and this is something that a lot of people have to learn entering into the industry.
Yes.
Is not to be precious with your work.
Yeah.
So the amount of times, like I said, that I've gone into level design meetings and they've gone, well, none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I would have gone, red flag. I need to defend myself. Oh, it does make sense because of these things.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, how do you think it doesn't make sense? And then they say it, and I go, actually, yeah, you're 100% right. But it's just a small change we need to do. I can still get all of the work that I wanted to put in there. And also I can preserve this relationship between us. Like, because that's more important to me anyway, is the team and the relationships that you have, because it makes things so much easier. Then when you've got a problem, they can back you up on stuff as well.
It is a funny aspect of that. I don't want to call it politics because that kind of puts a sour tone on it, but that element of, as you said, right, like there are times where it is a battle in terms of, well, no, we think our aspect is more important because of this reason, vice versa. But there are times where it's okay to be like, oh no, you need help on this, and like, this is your moment to shine. We'll step out of the way, and people do appreciate that, and that does go a long way further.
Exactly.
For it. So not every battle needs to be won in that sense. And as we talk about as well, as like everyone, you mentioned so many teams about communicating with everyone, like the moments to shine, to make a great game, everyone has a moment they need to shine on. If an example, there is a bad joke in the industry where everyone's like, oh, it's environment art versus level design. It should never do that. If it's gotten to that point, something's gone terribly wrong. But we need amazing art to make you be like, whoa, what the fuck is this? And like take your breath away, as much as they need great level design to encourage people to know where they're going. They don't get lost.
Exactly.
Everything's entertaining. Everyone needs that moment for it. And I am conscious, Tom, because I promised to give you back in 2 minutes. So is there anything else you want to talk about? You don't have to, you can run a little bit over, but I'm just more conscious of your time, mate.
I'm fine if you want to carry on. I don't know if you've got a specific length you want this to be. I literally have nothing else on today. I've moved everything off my calendar just for this, in case we were talking for 12 hours. No, I've got plenty of time. So
I was going to tell you more about how much I hate actors, and I've got 11 hours to do this.
Well, actually, I might need to go. Sorry, Max.
No, but I mean, we'll focus on one more topic, mate. Is there anything that's really on your mind that you want to talk about with this, or something that you really want to push on?
Nothing specific. Like, it's such an interesting. I think what I've learned more than anything about like the position that I have is the reason why I love it so much is, and it goes back into like what we're talking about the actors and talking about level design. The reason why I love it so much is because I love talking with people and just understanding stuff, and that's it. That's all. That's honestly one of the best skills I've managed to learn in my time, is actually how to like just talk with people. That's it. Because it's very difficult, because when you enter the industry, and this is genuine advice to like a lot of the students and people looking to get into the industry and things like that, you're going to feel very self-conscious, because that's just how this works, right? You're going to feel a lot of eyes on you when you present stuff to leads and things like that.
Right.
Just let go of that. It's very easy to say, just try and let go of all that, because honestly, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. What it actually is about the connections you make in the team, because that pushes you up more than anything else. Because I can't tell you the amount of times that, like, when I worked at Supermassive, I had a bigger team with me. I had a bigger team of designers with me, and the amount of times that I will see what the work that they're doing, and I'll go, "You need to present this to the director. Like, you should present this, not me. Like, this is your work." And if like I was in a meeting with a director or something like that, or with some of the higher ups, and they would go like, "Oh, this is really good work," I would always try and shout out whose work it was, like what it is, because then they're gonna get the praise they need, and I'm just a conduit like for that kind of stuff. In a similar way that producers often say like they're kind of like a channel for like communication. I think leads should be that as well, but in more of a sort of creative sense.
Yeah, there's a term called service leadership, where everything you're
Hmm.
doing is in service of your team. It's not about
That's exactly what I think leads should be. I think leads should be
exactly.
pushing from the back, like they should always be pushing their their people forward to the
Agreed.
forefront, showcasing their work, because that is your work. I think that's your job as a lead, is to push people to as much as possible. And yeah, I think that's really helped me, like in all the time that I've done
Mm,
that, because then those guys have always had my back. They've backed me up with anything. And also, the other thing is, the industry is a small place.
yeah.
It's a very, very small place. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've been looking for a job and someone in there has gone, "Oh, I remember you from this. Oh, I'll put a word in for you." And if you're a dick, it's the same way. If you treat someone like shit,
Yes.
it goes the same way. That person might go to another job and then you get laid off or whatever, which is very common right now. And
So
you go somewhere else, you apply for somewhere else. They go, "Oh, do you know Tom Hughes at all?" And then they might go, "Oh, yeah, he's awful to work with. Like, don't even bother. He's too much of a hassle." And then you get rejected, and that's it. You kind of get blacklisted at that point because you were a dick.
yeah,
So I think that's it. Just don't be a dick. It's the golden rule.
to live by, mate. Words to live by. So I guess then,
Yeah.
mate, if anyone wants to reach out to you, learn more, where best to get in contact with you, mate?
Best place would probably be BlueSky. I'm very active on there at the moment. My @ is tomhughesdesign.bluesky.social.
I will have a link to that down below as well.
Yeah, I'll send you everything for that and put it up. Yeah, and with that, yeah, if anyone is interested in reaching out and learning more about narrative, I kind of glossed over a few things. Like, we can go into more in depth stuff. Please reach out on there. My DMs are open. I'd love to help people out as much as possible.
No, that's it. Tom is a very nice guy, unlike me, which we've all learned in the last 40 minutes.
He's got a warm, gooey centre. That's what you've got, Max.
Yeah,
It's under a hard exterior, but I know what's in there. We've been out a few times. I know what's in there.
no, but thank you very much for coming on. As I said, guys, if you want to reach out to Tom, all of his details will be underneath in the description down below. If you want to reach out to me, unless you're an actor, don't, then I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But if you do want to reach out to me, please, you can do so at email leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. Please sign up to the newsletter where we get to share more news about level design, the industry. I get to answer your questions as well. And you can reach me over on X or BlueSky @MaxPez. So thank you very much. Take care, and we'll catch you all next time.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.